All right, welcome everybody to our first attempt at video recording a lesson. We're gonna give this a shot. So first thing we are going to do is we're finding a percent of a number. So the way we can do that is we can use our percentage that we have. So if we read the problem, we have 75% of the games played. So when we see 75%, we can think of that as a percent. So we've got the ratio, or we can think of that as a ratio. So we have the ratio of 75 to 100. You write that down on your notes. Then we can set that equal to a ratio of how many games they played versus how many they won. Well, since we don't know how many games they won, that's our variable. G, how many games were played? It tells us right here in the problem. They played 16 games, so they won some number of games out of the 16. We also know that it was 75%. Now we have our nice little handy dandy ratio set up. We can use the old cross products, and we can do 75 times 16 is equal to G times 100. So we can write that down. 75 times 16 is equal to, we'll go like this, 100 times G. So we simplify this. We've got 75 times 16, and if we simplify that down, 75 times 16, that is 1,200. And that is equals to still 100 times G. Now my pen doesn't want to write. There we go. 100 times G. Now this becomes just a regular algebra problem that we all know how to solve. We use our inverse operations. Since G is multiplied by 100, we divide by 100. And we use our division property of equality. We divide both sides by 100. 100 divided by 100, that's the same as 1. So that is how we find out G, if my pen would write. There we go, beautiful G. And then now, whatever 1,200 divided by 100 or 1,200 divided by 100, we can just, those zeros will cancel each other out, and we are left with 12 over 1, or 12. So we know that if the Vikings won 75% of their games, that works out to 12 games. Since the question was asked in words, we answer in words. And if you have that written down in your notes, you have a nice example for finding percent of a number. Here we have another example. We will do this one exactly the same way. So if the Packers play 16 games and they only win 25% of those games, write a proportion to find the number of games that the Packers win. Well, here is the key. When we're given a percent can write the first ratio, because the definition of a percent is a number in a ratio set to 100. So we have the ratio 25%, 25 to 100 is equal to, well, we don't know how many games the Packers won, so that's our G, but we do know that they played 16 games total. So we have a ratio just like the other problem, and we use cross products like so, and I always like to do the numbers first. 25 times 16 is equal to 100 times G. Simplify our multiplication. 25 times 16, that is equal to 400. And 100G stays. We don't have to simplify that any further. So there's our algebraic equation, and we're going to use our inverse operations just like the other one. divide both sides by 100. As long as we do the same to both sides, the equality is still true. 100 divided by 100, same as 1, so we're just left with 1 times g, which is g. That's what we want because we want to know how many games they won. 400 divided by 100, 4. So the Packers won 25% of their games. They won 4 games. Piece of cake, right? Now, another example we can use a decimal to find our answer. So in this case, we're asked to find 22% of 228. So the first thing we can do is we can write 22% as a decimal. And 22% is 22 out of 100, or 22 hundredths. Now, the word of in mathematics means multiplied, and then 288 is just 288. And so we multiply 22 hundredths times 288, and we get 63 and 36 hundredths. Pretty simple. Just to recap, all you do, take your percent, turn it to a decimal. Of means multiply, and then take your decimal, multiply it by your other number, and you can find a percent of a number easily that way. And please, 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 on these, especially if your decimals are nasty, don't be afraid to use a calculator. All right, in our last example here, we got a nice little word problem. It says, suppose 25% of 80 students say that they have been on a vacation to Florida. Find the number of students who have been to Florida. Well, we have a nice little handy-dandy table here, and when you see percents like 10%, 20%, 25, 50, 75, 80, those actually are nice, easy fractions that you can use. And so in this case, we can write 25% as a fraction in simplest terms. So the way this looks is, grab a little pen here, we've got 1/4, and then remember the key word of means multiply 80 students. Say they've been on a vacation to Florida. Well, if we simplify this out, we get 1/4 times 80 over 1. We get 80 over 4, which is the same thing as 80 divided by 4. Quick little mental math. We got 20 students. Are you enjoying my handwriting? There we go. One little thing to note, anytime you have a fraction where its numerator is 1, it's the same as just dividing by that bottom number. 1/4 times 80 is the same as dividing 80 by 4. So, easy way, especially when you get these numerators like your 10%, your 20%, 25%, 50%, check it out. All those numerators are 1. So if you're finding, say, 50% of a number, all you're really doing is dividing it by 2. If you're finding 20%, you're just really dividing by 5. 10% is even easier. It's just dividing by 10. So a lot of times, if you get one of these nice, easy percents, don't even really have to do a whole lot of calculator stuff. You can use some mental math. That's why it says mental math. And you can figure it out just like that. When I see like 25%, 50%, all I know is really I'm just taking that number, dividing by 2, or dividing by 4, dividing by 5, dividing by 10, depending on what the percent is. And a lot of times, especially with some practice, you could end up doing these right in your head. You don't even need to break out a calculator or pencil and paper. Easy as pie, as pie. And here you go. This is the final page. Here you have your homework. We got our basic problems here, pages 301, 302, 1 through 11, extra credit 12. Same examples, using proportions to find percent of a number, using decimals to find percent of a number. And we got our challenge problems for those of you that want to push yourself a little bit. All these problems, same thing. Couple of these, got to take your skills a little bit further to the next level. But all in all, Not too bad. Quick little reminder as we go through. Use the percent, set it up as your first ratio, and then use the rest of the information to set up the other ratio, and then use cross products to solve your proportion. Multiply two numbers you know, divide by the one that you don't. And in our other example, write your percent as a decimal, multiply it by the total amount. That'll tell you your percent of a number. And finally, you've got your little table right in your notes of percents that are easy to use. Write your percent as a fraction. And remember, if the fraction has a numerator of 1, like these here, all you're really doing is dividing by the denominator. If you have any questions, all you got to do, ask. Happy to help you during class time. If you're checking this out at home, I'm going to see about the Edmodo page, and I will hopefully have a spot in there where you could even ask for help. So at night, if I'm on the computer, I could even shoot you a quick email, get you help that way. But this is our first try at it. Hopefully it worked well for you. And once again, if you have any questions, comments, let me know. Thanks much. Good luck.